again, and welcome to ManchTalk. My name's Tammy Simmons.
And I'm Carla Garrick.
And thank you for tuning in. Lovely summer.
Oh,
This is a really good summer. I mean, knock on wood, it hasn't rained crazy. I mean, we need rain, but it's not like every weekend's been raining and people are like, what the heck?
it's gorgeous.
I'm good.
Yeah, me too.
I'm really, it's going to be hot today. You and I were just talking about how hot it is, and, you forget gardening.
Hot's good
But
because
I'm
it'll
good
be
with
cold
that.
again soon.
Right.
So.
And I have air conditioning. I always find it peculiar, the people who are anti-air conditioning. I don't care if anybody doesn't have air conditioning in their house, but there was a poll or a question posed on Facebook recently about, what do people who don't have air conditioning do to stay cool? Which was a legitimate question, and I've just found it interesting how many people had this, opposition to air conditioning and how frivolous it is, and it's such a waste of this, and I thought, I don't know, I like being comfortable.
I like being comfortable, certainly as
like to
someone
sleep.
from Africa. I can tell you that, air conditioning definitely changed the world for the better.
Could I survive with fans and blowing the air around? Yes. Would I be? You would not want to. I need sleep.
I went on vacation once in Namibia, which is Southwest Africa.
Yeah.
It's on the western coast of Africa, and it's a desert area,
Yeah.
and it's incredibly hot.
Yeah.
And we actually watched a candle just
melt
melt
off.
in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And the only way we could stay cool was everyone fought about the spritzer water
Yeah.
bottle, so we'd all spritz each other. And once every 3 hours, someone would get in the car and just blast the air con
Right?
to cool down your body temperature, and then you'd go out again.
I just think it's 2019. Air conditioning is not a luxury anymore. I feel really bad for anybody who lives someplace where they can't possibly. I mean, you can buy an air conditioner for under $100 half the time.
Yep.
So it's not that's not a luxury to me. Running water is not a luxury either, but you can manage without that if you really had to.
Yeah, and I mean, certainly we are very fortunate in America.
Yes.
And, and I
It's
think
okay.
sometimes people lose sight of how well things are going,
Yes.
right? Because the government's job, regardless of which party is in, is to kind of scare people.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, things are getting worse, things are getting worse. Things have never been better in the history of mankind. Isn't that wonderful?
You go in the grocery store, you can choose from 30 different types of paper towels, and there's a whole aisle just for dog and cat food. And, we have endless food choices. So when people talk about people going hungry, we have resources for people who can't afford to feed themselves. We have all these things available to us, including air conditioning, that you literally just put in your window and plug in the wall, and you pay, an extra $10 a month to keep your body temperature cooler.
Yep. And we could be paying a lot less if we could fix all the cronyism in our energy markets.
Yeah, it's just crazy. But anyways, it's gorgeous. It's July. I hope you're all having a wonderful summer. So what do you got? You mentioned something about, of all things, global warming or climate control. So let's talk about that a bit.
Yeah, so I went to the 603 Alliance, did a debate last night, which really ended up not being much of a debate.
Yeah.
So what they did, it was held at St. A's at the Political Center. That was kind of cool. The only other time I'd been to that particular building was the first time I was ever going to be on CNN. And I was super excited. And then I got bumped for a school shooting. So,
Damn school shooting.
So anyway, so this was a climate change debate where they had invited all the presidential candidates to actually come and a few other experts, and all of them declined.
Of course.
So it ended up being Lord Monckton, Christopher Monckton.
I saw that name on Facebook, and I'm like, who? What?
He's a British Lord and Viscount of something.
Something or other.
I'd actually met him at Freedom Fest in Las Vegas probably 4 years ago.
That would be 2015.
He, wonderful character, very smart guy with the most amazing turns of phrases and gift of the gab. And he was just, he whether you agree with him or don't agree with him, he is just a wonderful speaker. Like one of his turns of phrases was the sins of emission, right? Because it was about climate change. And then the other speaker's name was Joe Bastardi.
Okay.
And he was, I think, like a weatherman and stuff. So it ended up being just the two of them. They were definitely more skeptical about climate change, had some really good arguments to sort of back up where they are. And so there were sort of 4 questions that they asked the audience, and I can look at my notes if I... They talked about is climate change truly as urgent as people say? Their conclusion was pretty much no.
Right.
They said, is it our fault? Is it humans that are causing it? And it sounds like, we're kind of out on that one. Maybe there's a small contribution of man-made, but if you actually look at climate change over millennia, because that's how the world works. You can't just take a little window of 200 years, and that's hubristic, really, right? If we're just like, we're just going to say this, Meanwhile, it's like, 78,000 years ago, it was a lot hotter or a lot colder or whatever, right? And then they said, if we take immediate action, can we remedy the situation? No. And is it settled science? No. And actually, what kind of shocked me is, Lord Monckton made a compelling argument. He took all the climate science papers that are out there, so scientific papers, peer-reviewed journals, and looked at it. And we hear that number a lot, that 97% of scientists agree, there's climate change. Well, they used to say global warming.
Now they call it climate change, which just the fact that they changed the terminology makes you wonder why.
Suspicious. And then also, if there's one thing we know about the climate, is it changes.
It changes all the time.
We open this show every week talking about the weather, which is something humans do because it's something we all share. Yeah. It's a commonality we have. And it's actually a way, it's small talk, but it's also like, it is that one thing that we can both observe and we can chit-chat about, right?
I agree.
And so, my takeaway at the end was pretty much like so I was going to say, so they say the 97%. Yeah. So he looked at literally thousands of papers, right? And he had a slide and he broke it down. I don't have the specific details here, but I can find it if we want to share it on our page. And it's actually 0.3%, not 97%, 0.3% of scientists agree.
Unequivocally
agree that global warming is a man-made phenomenon and that we can fix it through
constraints.
Yes. And so I thought, interestingly, with Joe, the weatherman guy, he kind of came at it from a perspective of, what is the ulterior motive? Like, why are we at this stage? And my conclusion, I'm not putting words in his mouth, this wasn't his, but it's sort of, I think because things are going so well in the world, we have to have a problem that the government can claim to solve.
I think, I tend to agree with you. My knee-jerk tends to be now when I see something, if it's a problem or a controversy, if you step back and look at it and say, well, really, is it? Or is it just either the government or a group of people trying to make us think this is a problem?
Right.
It's like that,
And the thing that's interesting about weather is because it's that sort of thing that we do all share, you forget, though. Like, if you ask me what the weather was last week, I'll be like,
I don't know, it was summer.
So when there's this narrative and this sort of, there are more hurricanes than ever before, and then you actually look at the statistics,
and you're like, no, actually,
and it's not true.
Well, and I think this goes back sometimes to social media and the power of the internet and our communication speed. Go back 40 years, the only hurricanes you heard about, were hardly any because they weren't in the local newspaper and Walter Cronkite wasn't talking about it. So you heard about that one devastating hurricane, but you didn't hear about all the hurricanes because that communication just wasn't conveyed. Now, if somebody's office building shakes 3,000 miles from here, I'm probably going to see it on Facebook in the next 30 seconds.
Yep. Which makes the world feel smaller, which also makes it feel like there's more dangerous and more whatever. Right. But if you actually eliminate anything that's beyond your localized world, you're not going to be half as fussed as you would have been.
So that's interesting. So I had a conversation last week with somebody, and I did find it interesting. This is not related, but it's that same communication thing. And they live in a different part of Manchester they don't live on the west side. I don't really feel unsafe living on the west side. There was some sketchy dude out in front of my house last week. Okay, whatever. But I just don't feel unsafe, They lived in one of the corners of the city. We'll leave it at that. And it was interesting, their perception that where you live, you're probably more accustomed to the crime. And I thought it was just an interesting thing that on the edges of our city, where it is a little bit less urban, those people think we have more crime. And I'm thinking, I live there. And I don't think we have more crime. So, I mean, there's a lot of nuisance crime, like the graffiti thing, and people are just pigs and things like that. But, like, I just don't feel like I worry about leaving my home and somebody going to rob it. I don't feel like somebody's going to jump me in my driveway. I just don't feel that.
I mean, and having, traveled extensively and having grown up in a crime-ridden country, I mean, my house as a child was burgled, at least 4 times, where you come home from school and the back door is like broken down by an axe and you're like, I guess whatever we got last time with the insurance money is gone this time.
Yep.
On my honeymoon, I was robbed 3 times in 10 days.
Right.
Every single wedding present gone,
So
like I'm used to a much higher level of crime. And in fact, this morning I was on the West Side Trail down by the Piscataway, around like 7:30. And I actually, as I was walking, I was like, how lucky are we to live in this it's a beautiful city. Everyone's like down on Manch. I'm all for Manch, man. This is a cool city. We can make it cooler. There are things we need to fix, but you know what? It's doable. It's beautiful down by that river. The trail is clean. It is entirely safe.
Yep.
It's like,
I think the biggest thing we can do in this city is empower people to want their city to be better and to make it better.
Stop just focusing on the negative. I mean, if you just read Joe Kelly's Facebook page, you'd be like, this is the worst place on earth. And I'm like, it really isn't.
I don't think it is. I mean, I don't think I'll retire in Manchester, but who
wants to retire in a city anyway,
I need
right,
a lake, and that's just reality. But yeah, I mean, do I think that our schools need improvement? Definitely.
Yes.
Like there are things. Do I think sometimes do I think we're paying too much money for the services we get? Yes. But do I think the people in Manchester are all bad or every neighborhood's bad? No, but I think a lot of the people who live in the less quality neighborhoods, we need to somehow empower the property owners and the people who live there to want to live in a better neighborhood.
The other thing we need to do, I mean, some of the crime that we're seeing now, and I find it interesting, this is speculative for sure, but I hope in a year's time I can find this video and be like, haha, I told you so. I think with the sort of clamp down on heroin and the fentanyl and sort of the action that's taken place there, I think we're seeing a rise in meth use. Because I'm actually seeing a shift. If you read the paper and if you're someone who actually is aware of drug what different and what different drugs do to people and stuff. I mean, suddenly we're seeing this whole spike thing. But we're seeing a spike in like stabbings and like that guy who beat his girlfriend to death on the West Side, which I mean is just horrifying to me. And I read that article right before yoga, and I was like, that put me in a really awful headspace, and I'm mad, right? But if you actually read the articles, Mark Hayward from the Union Leader did several. So there was the one that was at the public housing in West Manchester, but there was also one now yesterday or the day before in Concord.
Yes.
And in both articles, the people who live in those buildings have said, we have a problem because they will not let us have firearms. No one there can protect themselves. Now, if you know that people are like breaking into your apartment building with either they're bumping the door or they're opening it with a credit card, they get inside.
What are you supposed to do?
It's like you're basically disarming responsible people, or partly, we've decided to take care of these people, so let them also don't totally disarm.
Well, and I was really kind of a little appalled to hear the one in the West Manchester building over there on Amory Street. I guess that's Amory McGregor or whatever, across from St. Mary's. That so many residents, they're kind of at a loss what to do, because it's not like there's not security there all the time. The employees that work there are gone by 5. They say, there is a security system. We're only supposed to buzz in, you're only supposed to buzz in your guests, but people buzz everybody in. So imagine, you're living on the 5th floor of this apartment building. You can't make improvements. You can't reinforce your door and add additional locks because it's not your property. So you can't, what are you going to do? Go in your apartment and barricade the door, and then if there's a fire, then what do you do?
Right.
I mean, it was awful to see so many people, and a lot of those people, I mean, I've gone into the one on South Main Street. A lot of those people are, older. There's a lot of elderly. There's people who truly have disabilities and, need some sort of assistance. And now, from what I got from those articles, we seem to be having more and more people who are disabled, maybe mentally, and that's abroad. I think we bucket people.
I mean, it's
so now you've got people living in a building with elderly people who can't protect themselves, who are acting erratic.
I mean, and you have to ask yourself, the guy who, I mean, he beat his girlfriend to death, right? I believe she had called 911. She called
to say he's at the door.
But neighbors were calling
so
when they heard it,
screaming,
right? So you ask yourself, I mean, if someone on that floor had been armed,
could they have
stopped? Could they have gone? Could they have stopped it? Could they at least have like pushed him in a corner?
Right.
Like they have like shot him in the leg? Whatever it is. But I'm like, that is a horrendous thing.
Can you imagine if you're
hearing
beyond, like your neighbor?
And then, of course, I mean, I'm very, I mean, I think it's just a horrible story, from start to finish. But, I mean, he claimed to be a Marine. Now the Marines are saying there's no record of him, but I'm kind of like, is that one of those we won't confirm or deny?
That you were a Marine, maybe a special
because,
so you don't know.
So you don't know, but I just, I think, certainly maybe a thing that we can do to improve the public housing is to say that we should not have rules saying these people should be disarmed, because once again, we have the Second Amendment,
right.
And I remain extremely curious about why the government, who is supposed to be all they're supposed to be doing is enforcing the Constitution,
right.
So helping you with your rights, not telling you what you can and can't do.
Right.
How come for every place that they have full control, and by which I mean schools, housing, they restrict people's rights? And so, this is the outcome,
because they scare
folks.
people. Because they scare people.
The government?
The government. No, they do. And then
people, they're the biggest bully in the
And then
sandbox.
People are okay with being restricted because they feel safer because they were scared.
But
sick.
I mean, the cliche about, if seconds count, the police are only minutes away. This is a prime example. This is why I know how to shoot, carry a gun, and all of that.
I get very frustrated when people talk about the police protecting them, because I'm going to say it a million times over. The police's responsibility is not to protect you. Courts have said that. And if you're objective and you can look at the situation, you can see that. They can't be everywhere protecting everyone at all times. They are there to resolve crime. They are there to supposedly solve crime. You've been robbed, now we're going to find the culprit. They're not there to prevent the robbery. They, in some instances, most certainly probably do prevent some crimes simply by their presence. But what are we going to have, wall-to-wall police on every street?
Well, I mean, a lot of these people who are mad at me about my pushback on the cameras on Elm Street, I guess want that, right? So they're saying safety is more important than liberty.
No,
I saw this article the other day where it was a side-by-side comparison, right, of arguments for and against the surveillance state. And so one was like, a surveillance state will keep us safe.
No.
And then the other side, the side that I believe in, said it will keep us free. And I was like, who's keeping
either of them? Who's keeping me?
But and it's like, but who's keeping? I mean, I can almost understand the argument for someone's keeping you safe, but who's keeping me free? Either I'm free, like my rights are inalienable, like the government does not. And this is the thing no one seems to understand anymore. You don't exist and have rights because the government says so.
You have them because
you're a born free human being. That's what was so wrong with slavery, right? That was literally the government saying we're allowed to own people. And we said, hey, we don't like that system. Let's get rid of it.
Thank you, Republicans, by the way.
Yes,
Thank you, Republicans who freed the slaves. Just saying.
And people don't seem to know that either.
No. Well, because we scare people. Okay, so we got 10 minutes. I do want to talk about one other thing. Thank you for doing that. And I love that you go and listen to things, because I can't always, my brain's too small for some of this stuff. I did want to see, if you didn't see this in your mail, because apparently you didn't see it, and I believe it went to all Manchester residents, I'm assuming. It is about Manchester trash carts. And, they had a pilot program in Manchester where they were doing the automated pickup in different parts of the city. Well, they decided that really worked well, and I believe that over time, as our trash trucks need repairs, they would either fit them or buy new ones or whatever they have to do to eventually become 100% automated for trash pickup.
And that is cost effective because it's a
huge.
lot less injuries.
The workers' comp claims are people have no idea what a workers' comp claim can do for costs. And if you just think about those guys that come and pick up your trash can and lift it to put it in the truck, doing that all day, 8 hours a day, you're just, I mean, of course you're going to get hurt.
And I say huge shout out to the garbage collectors of the world.
Oh,
thank you, because that is truly a top 10 dangerous job.
And
you know what
it's
law enforcement. Right. Not dangerous as compared to a lot of other jobs.
Here in Manchester, they I guess passed an ordinance, which I did print out because I wanted to make sure, saying that, and I believe it's in effect now, but they are going to really start enforcing it in the fall. All single family, all residential homes, single and 2-family homes, have to use these trash carts now. You cannot they will not pick up if you put a regular barrel out. You can't just pile your trash on the ground because that trash is like one of my pet peeves in life because I always drive by.
Now that I pick it up, I
think,
feel
who
you.
do you think is picking up that pile of junk that you piled?
Right.
I mean, we've all put out like that one random, like, here, I'm just gonna put this lamp out next to the trash and hopefully they throw it away. But I mean, you see people and it's like disgusting piles of trash.
See, I think that's usually when there's been either someone evicted
or it's just
someone's moving, and
or
sometimes
it's just absentee landlords because the people who live in some of these properties just don't care. I mean, I can drive by Parker Street on any given week, and the idiot who's living in my home doesn't seem to understand recycling and trash at all. And this is a grown, adult, educated person who can't handle putting out the trash. So I'm just going to say that. Just saying. But, so you have to put the stuff out. You can't put, it says no trash, recycling, or yard waste receptacles shall be stored. Oh, I thought this was interesting. You can't store them on the sidewalk, which is another one of my pet peeves. I like to drive around and see nice. Maybe I'm superficial, whatever. And it does kind of make me crazy when I see a house and they store their trash cans along the sidewalk. No trash, recycling, or yard waste receptacles shall be stored between the collection times in the front yard of a property or the forward of the building line if there is another outdoor space available on the property. So just because it might be easier for you to put your trash out in front of your house all week long for your tenants than to take those barrels around the back to the backyard, the ordinance actually says you can't.
Not even in the front yard, so meaning you could see it from the street, but it's not on the street?
Yeah, and I mean, I would think it would depend. No, but I mean, some of it, you go down West Street, and there's like a row of trash, and I think they do have a side of the building that isn't facing the street. I'm flexible, but I would like to see less trash every day on the sidewalk. But that being said, the flyer that they sent out is now through the end of the year. The trash bins, which there's 3 different sizes, are 50% off. Now, I know people complain. They're like, I shouldn't have to buy a trash bin. Yeah, even at full price, quite honestly, these prices are comparable, if not cheaper, than Lowe's or Home Depot in the first place. And they're guaranteed. So if the lid breaks, you can bring it back and
wow.
So there is a warranty where good luck bringing your trash can back to Lowe's. But the small size right now for 35 gallons is $19. The medium is $28. And the really big one, which is what we have, is just $35. You order them online or through the little paper. You can't just go to the drop-off facility and buy them. That's not how it works. And then they drop it off at your house. So you don't even have to be able to fit it in your car.
Door-to-door service, folks. Take advantage. 50% off.
If you order between now and the end of August, they will deliver for free. After August 30, they're going to charge you $10 to deliver it.
Okay.
But that's okay, too.
So get on it.
Buy your trash cans. I think I'm going to buy an extra one for our house because the whole goal is you're not going to be putting stuff out. So if I have to put that lamp out, I shove it in the bin.
Right. And the big ones are big because we just got one and we paid full price, damn it.
We rarely
fill it.
We put it out once, maybe every 2 or 3 weeks. We fill our recycling bin far quicker and please don't put plastic bags or greasy items apparently in your recycling because it's screwing things up. And if you screw up my recycling,
I'm hopeful, and actually, if people are watching this, certainly on the West Side with the We Heart West folks, and we've been going out and doing trash collections. I missed Saturdays because, or Sundays because I was in the Upper Valley after a funeral, but. Maybe we can get we can get people to donate, and we'll get a few extras. I mean, currently, like, my husband and I clean our street on Dubuque just randomly. That little dip that comes up from what I call the holler down where you are, and up to Gosler, like if we turn there and.
If there was a can, maybe they put
the school
in.
kids there are like pollute a lot.
Well, and especially since this is going to eventually be automated, the trash truck could just pick it up every week when they go by.
Yeah,
put it on the curb.
So I think we'll probably buy an extra one and just put it out for the school kids over there, and people. And maybe other people who see this will be inspired to do it too. Human action is
that
really
is one
what
thing I
changes
noticed
the
when we
world.
were up in Goffstown on in one of their spaces. They have trash cans everywhere, which is a big thing. We're almost out of time. I do want to remind people about the farmers market on Thursdays. That's in Stanton Plaza, which is right across from Veterans Park. Runs from 3 to 6:30. Now's the time of the year when produce is starting to be plentiful. Everybody will be selling their tomatoes, and they won't be able to get rid of the zucchinis. And also this Thursday night, August 1st, the In-Town Summerfest free concert series features Jimmy LaHoo Band. So if you don't know
fun.
Jimmy LaHoo, so that's August 1st, this Thursday, down in Veterans Park. It's free. Those start at 7. It's a great free opportunity to get out. Maybe take a walk down Elm Street, visit some of the restaurants. A lot of nice things going on Elm Street.
Do it while you're not being surveilled.
That's right. So I think that's about all we have. If anybody has anything you want to talk about, if there's questions about, the trash program or the concert series or surveillance, upcoming elections, anything, you can always email us at ManchTalk@gmail.com. We have a Facebook page. We try to post the videos weekly there. So that you can always see them. We have a YouTube channel that hopefully we put them on. The intertubes are a little tricky for us.
I do actually post it on my
I think you do.
YouTube
They're out
page.
there. If anybody Googled, they could probably find them, even if they weren't on our own YouTube.
Someone watches them because we have 3 views.
That's right.
Every week.
And I think 1 like. But if you want us to bring somebody on, if you have a suggestion for a show, we're always welcome to open for ideas and questions and opinions and that whole stuff. Otherwise, it's summer. Get out there. Get out and take a walk. Check out the great outdoor spaces in Manchester, and we'll be back next week.
Take care. Peace out.